welcome again, everybody, to tUrn Week. I'm Kristen Kusanovich, the director of the project, and I'm very, very pleased to be presenting the Neuroscience of Habit. To halt climate change, we have to change. This is a co-presentation between Creighton University and Santa Clara University, with Sustainable Creighton here represented by Nick McCreary. And now I'd like to introduce Nick McCreary and Roy Pereira. Nick is the Director of Sustainability at Creighton University. He studied geology, political science, and philosophy at DePauw University. And it was at DePauw where he began working on campus sustainability issues. As a senior, he initiated a recycling program for campus tailgating events. In graduate school, he worked in the Office of Sustainability at St. Louis University, and for the last 3 years, he has served as the Sustainability Coordinator at Indiana State University. He's also been the first person to partner with Santa Clara University in turn as another institution. So Creighton already had a special place in my heart, and now it will have even more special place in my heart as we go forward now with 8 Jesuit universities now as partners. Father Roy Pereira is a member of the Jesuits and is the newest Charles and Mary Hyder Endowed Faculty Chair at Creighton University. He teaches in the School of Medicine and contributes his expertise in international and study abroad programming with the Global Engagement Office. Father Pereira was previously the head of the Department of Chemistry and Provost Vice Principal at St. Xavier's College in Mumbai, where he taught chemistry and neuroscience. He also taught a graduate-level Philosophy of Neuroscience course at the Papal Athenaeum. He holds master's degrees in chemistry, biblical theology, and philosophy, and earned his PhD from Boston College, exploring the interdisciplinary areas of chemistry, neuroscience, and philosophy. In addition, and this is the part I always want to say first, he is a singer, dancer, and actor, as well as being a chemist, a Jesuit, a scientist, and a scholar. So welcome, Nick, welcome, Roy, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Like Kristen said, my name is Nick, and I work in the Office of Sustainability at Creighton. And I met Father Roy last semester when we were recording a podcast together about the universal apostolic preferences. I was trying to learn more about the apostolic preferences, so I figured who better to reach out to than a Jesuit. And so Father Roy and I started talking about the apostolic preferences, especially how it pertains to the work that I do. And we got sidetracked over and over and over because, as you could hear from Kristen's introduction of him, he's quite fascinating. And so I just couldn't help but ask questions about neuroscience and things that were totally unrelated to the podcast. So I've had it in the back of my mind for a while now to get Father Roy talking about neuroscience and how that relates to climate change, because I think it's a really interesting connection. And that connection was sort of galvanized this morning when I was watching President Biden make a massive commitment on behalf of our nation, which should be applauded. But one of the follow-ups to that was an article in the New York Times talking about what Americans are going to need to do if we are to cut our emissions by 50% by 2030, which is in like 9 years. And it was just a list of all these different things that we're going to need to change. And that is perfect leadway into Father Roy, because change is really difficult, especially large scale life-altering changes. And Father Roy is going to talk about the neuroscience of change, and understanding how that works has really helped me sort of assess why it is actually difficult to make those changes. So when you're trying to wake up early and go work out, what's the actual neuroscience behind why that's hard? And so I don't know anything about neuroscience, so I'm going to turn it over to Father Roy to start an introduction with neuroscience.
So thanks once again, Kristen, and thanks, Nick. So I'm doubly excited because both these institutions, Santa Clara and Creighton, are dear to me. I did 5 years back, I did a fellowship at Santa Clara University. And so I know the area. And of course, now I'm here teaching at Creighton University. In between, of course, I was at St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, where I taught for 27 years before coming here. So I am excited that Santa Clara and Creighton are getting together for something which has been very dear to my heart, and sustainability and ecological concerns. So as Nick said, I'm going to start with a little bit of neuroscience. Okay, so first of all, on this auspicious day of Earth Day, April 22nd, 2021, I would like to invite you to join me in exploring the neuroscience of habit to halt climate change. We have to change. If at all there was any further convincing that was necessary about the need of sustainability, environmental awareness, and Kristen has told us that that number is going down. I think this COVID-19 pandemic that we've endured for this last year, I think should say it all. The pandemic has shown us that climate change, environmental concerns cannot be the purview of just a few individuals or a few countries. We are truly a global world, or more appropriately, a global village. And therefore, every single citizen of the world, every single country, all that we do affects all of us. And nothing has shown that more starkly than how we all had to hunker down, get into lockdown to prevent the virus from spreading and doing more damage than it already has. From Sanskrit, we have the phrase Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the world is one family, and therefore we are all related to one another. Stretching Descartes' I think, therefore I am, we can truly say to be is to interbe. The world is more than just World Wide Web that we know from the internet. It is truly a web of interconnections. So, having established that we all need to change, we all need to do our best for the environment and sustainability, the broad overarching question of global change now zooms in to us as individuals and demands of us a certain change in our everyday living. And so that's why I humorously put the cigarette cartoon warning. Listening to this lecture may be injurious to your comfort, to our way of life, to your way of life, to all our way of life. Because perhaps we have been living carelessly, we have been over-consuming, we have been overusing, and we have not really bothered about the carbon footprints that we leave behind. So we'll do a little bit of neuroscience and then how the mind affects the body, but does the body affect the brain? Then we'll speak about how new experiences, new activities bring about change, sustainability objectives, and how to bring about behavior change. So all of us, I think in our early biology class, have learned about the three nervous systems. Okay, so we know the central nervous system and the three main parts there of the brain, the spinal cord, and the retina. The second, of course, is the peripheral nervous system, and that connects the central nervous system to the periphery. And the third is a very interesting nervous system. Can anyone guess what it is? It's a simple three-letter word. If you can guess, just unmute yourself and speak and tell us what it is. The third nervous system, a simple three-letter word. That's my time for some coffee. Okay, I'm sure you all know it. So the word starts with G, okay? And it is gut. Okay, I think I heard someone across the cloud saying gut. So yes, but of course, scientists are not satisfied with using a simple word for something. And so they've named it the enteric nervous system. So yes, the gut is the enteric nervous system. And this enteric nervous system, okay, is so connected with all that we think of. So we might not be familiar with the word or what it does, but we are familiar with our experiences. Are you going to give a presentation sometime, and are you nervous about it? Do you experience what we call butterflies in the stomach? And maybe if you're a kid, it might go to extremes where you might have to use the restroom frequently. Or sometimes when we have a lot of stress going on, and don't all of us have, we experience that stress which is in our mind. Maybe it will show up in the body on the shoulders. And therefore, if someone comes and gives you a nice shoulder massage, you feel so good. Or sometimes stress is sent down to the lower back. So whatever is going on in our mind is experienced in our body. Physicians have used the word psychosomatic illness sometimes to poo-poo this and say, oh, it's all in your mind. Yes, it is in our mind, but it's not only in the mind. It translates into the body. And so it was only when we got the sophisticated machinery like the functional magnetic resonance imaging or positron emission tomography, CT scans, etc., that for the first time, we were able to look into healthy brains. Till that time, the whole discipline of neurology, which was under the School of Medicine, was looking at either accident brains, skull broken, or maybe diseased brains with schizophrenia or various types of mental diseases. But the advent of these machines allowed us to now look into healthy brains. And with these investigative techniques, we were able to now see that the brain seems to be changing. Till then, it was believed that the brain remains same till infancy and childhood. Okay, and then after that, it was fixed. And therefore, we had all these levels of, the IQ levels of your super genius, genius, ordinary, etc. But now research has demonstrated that the brain constitutes new neural pathways and alters existing ones in order to adapt to new experiences. And the seminal investigation that made us realize this was that done on taxi drivers in London in 2006. Now, all of us are familiar with London, and we are familiar with New York. New York, after the Great Fire at the end of the 19th century, the roads were patterned along a grid. So you have your streets and your avenues, very efficient, except when there's a block. Whereas London, the roads were made along the bullock tracks, which were there for ages. And so they are curvy, they bend, and one really has to study that. Remember, I'm talking before the days of GPS and all our new devices. So the taxi drivers had to learn that before they even got their license. And of course, as they drove more, that part of the brain which deals with finding a place, etc., is called the hippocampus, known for spatial navigation. So the hippocampus of those taxi drivers was found to be thicker than the normal subjects. And so then the conclusion was reached that, hey, it's not that our brains are fixed in childhood, but our brains continually experience new experiences and new activities. And then what happens is that with that new activities and new experiences, changes are taking place, not just psychological, but actual physical changes are taking place. So experience rewires our brain, and that's called neuroplasticity or plasticity of the synapses. So the more time spent on an activity leads to greater rewiring, and thus the time spent on developing sustainable activities will result in behavior changes in the long run for us, as well as it spreads for people all around. So how does this wiring take place? Every type of stimulation causes an excitation of the neural circuits, okay? And then the repetition of that continuously enlarges the neural channels, and you have physical changes taking place in the brain. So if you have repeated stimuli, that repeated stimuli will result in an actual physical change. So with that, I'm ending my first section where we have understood that the brain changes, and it actually changes to repetition of an action. Nick, was that understandable? Did it go over our heads?
No, okay. So Father and I talked about for the presentation, me jumping in to sort of simulate our conversation we had on that podcast. And what I figured my role could be in this situation was to maybe explain what Father just said in a way that makes sense to me, someone who's not a neuroscientist, like I'm assuming many of you are on here. So the way I think about this is just the same way that if you want to, get stronger muscles, you go to the gym. But doing one lift one time, you can't possibly expect your, arms or legs to get bigger from that one time. But doing it repeatedly over time and consistently and will result in, muscular gain of your body. And that's how I think of the brain in the same way, but rather than lifting weights, you're repeating strenuous mental activities like trying to remember all the different streets in London, which makes your brain physically bigger. And that fascinated me because I did not realize that brains, one, were plastic and could get bigger, or that you could train your brain to do such a thing. So I think the next question we have, Father, is great. We can train our brains to get bigger, but what does this have to do with sustainability?
Okay, thank you, Nick. You put it very well. I love the weightlifting exercise analogy. Okay, so this next section speaks of sustainability. I think all of us, at least in this room, are convinced, and each of you, I'm sure, is doing lots to be sustainable. What I'm going to share is just a summarizing of something which many of you may be already doing, some of it, or maybe all of it, and maybe share something which may be different for you. So we are all learners in this process. We have spoken lights. All of us know that light is important. We are grateful for it. But somehow in our culture, now light has symbolized, a certain amount of extravagance and wealth. And so very often we see that lights are kept on just because maybe it looks nice, and it does, okay? But all this belongs to an earlier era. When we were very poor, we couldn't afford, then we got all that we could, and then we have extra lights, double lights, triple lights, when even one light could do. But now we have to rethink. We have come a long way. We now know how costly energy is and how unevenly energy is distributed. And therefore, it's important to realize that maybe we have to go back to the time of where we use lights only when we need it, okay, when we are doing something, maybe for our safety, but that we don't keep lights on, whether in our homes or in our institutions, unnecessarily burning. Sometimes you see huge libraries, no one's there the whole night, and lights are on. So this is a change of mindset that we need to go, that a lot of lights is good, we are happy, okay, but maybe we can keep it just for Christmas or for Easter. But what we need to do is to reduce the amount of light consumption. And that involves individual, but it also involves a societal decision to say that, hey, we don't need so much lights. Then, of course, water. I know all of us try our best to limit our showers to 3 minutes, or to do bucket baths, etc., or to not keep the tap running when we are shaving. But sometimes, we see this happening in the gym. Someone's, just left the shower on or is doing something else and the shower's running. Could this be a teaching moment where we gently bring to awareness? And I found that when I've done it, many people are very gracious. You might get someone or the other getting irritated, but many people are quite gracious to realize that water is a scarce necessity and that very soon we'll be having water wars. If we go into AC, air conditioning, so here again, what neuroscience has taught me is that the body, just as the brain is adjustable, the body is adjustable. And yes, we may be used to keeping the AC on at around 72, when the outside temperature may be 100, 105. Okay, but if we just practice slowly increasing the temperature, 73, 74, 75, the body gradually gets used to it. And then you will find that at 76 or 77, you are quite comfortable. If you come in from the outside where it is hot, it takes not more than 15 minutes to acclimatize to a 76 or a 77. So that is one thing that we could do. And I know it's not easy because immediately we'll feel that, oh, I need it cooler. Let the body go through a period of discomfort. And the body, when it goes through discomfort, it flourishes. So whether it be, taking a cold shower at the end of a warm shower, or whether it be reducing the temperature. If we come to the other side of when it is cold, now so often the temperature here is 32 or below. And of course, we keep our houses at a nice, warm, comfortable temperature. I know my nephews, they refuse to wear layers. Oh, no, it's in the house. And so they want the AC to be very hot in the room. Maybe we need to rethink that also. Can we use a light sweater even in the house, at least at certain times of the day? So these are ways where just by 1 degree, 2 degree shift of temperatures in our heating and our cooling, if each of us does this, you can imagine the amount of energy that we will save. And even if you have a second house and the house is locked, do you really need to keep it at such a high temperature when everywhere else it is cold outside? So these are habits that will bring about change. And finally, shroud burial. So we have been talking about green burial, and in a parish, one of the Jesuits, my companion, introduced that let us not use coffins, because coffins are resulting in so many trees being cut down. It did take time, my dear friends. It was not easy to convince all these good Catholics that, he's going to go in the hole 6 feet under and there's not going to be a coffin. But soon they realized how they were contributing to sustainability, and that whole parish did a turnover. And soon it has spread to other parishes. Currently, the whole province has taken a province policy that no Jesuit will be buried in a coffin. So everyone has shroud burial like Jesus, as you see in this picture here. So isn't it fun that to be buried like Jesus in a shroud? So we have had to tell all our family members that, hello, the province has taken a decision to bury all Jesuits in shroud. We are letting you know in advance so that you don't come there and freak out and say, where's the coffin? And all. Of course, what we do is coffins are there in every parish. So the coffin is used to bring the body from the home to the church, and then from the church to the cemetery. But that coffin is reused. Now, my father died 2 years back, and in my own home parish, which is not a Jesuit parish, they had not yet started this. So I asked the parish priest, could we begin shroud burial here? And he said, of course. And so, of course, with the permission of my 3 sisters, we decided to bury Dad in a shroud. And of course, at the homily, I did speak about the need of being environmentally friendly. And my dad was the first person in that parish to be buried in a shroud. And of course, we donated the coffin so that coffin could be there for the parish. So these are other ways which we can think to be more sustainable and to be more environmentally friendly. And I can say this, I started it in my own family. So it's not that I'm preaching and not practicing it. And of course, a lot of Jesuits all over are doing that. Of course, if you opt for cremation, the church allows that now. That is very helpful. In Hinduism, cremation is common and there is no coffin. And even now, the wooden fire that they use in most places now, Hindus use an electric crematorium. So these are all the other religions also. But one interesting thing, I don't know if you know about the Parsi religion, Zoroastrianism. They could be considered the most eco-friendly. And a lot of my friends are Parsis. So they leave their dead in what is called the Tower of Silence. And that is where the vultures come and then feed on the body. Okay, so it might sound a little weird, but this is done. And now we don't think twice about it. When we go for a Parsi burial, we know that the body is going to be there and the birds of the air are going to, consume that. Maybe this is a little extreme for some of us, but these are ways in which we start thinking out of the box. Another whole, okay, so as you know, we already knew about reduce, reuse, refuse, but I think these new things are important. Rallying. And that is what, Christine, tUrn, and Nick and Sustainability Common Home are doing. We need to rally together, rally people together for this larger cause. Okay, so going beyond just the initial reduce, reuse, repurpose. And now we come to a little tricky area. All major companies want us to change our phones and they encourage us, but you pay only $5 extra a month. When the phone comes out in 2 years, you will get a new phone without paying. Do we really need a new phone every 2 years? Okay, let us think about that. Let us rally against companies who are forcing us to change phones, or what is more sinister, they declare a certain model or a certain www web one out of, and then you are forced to buy. Can we as a group rally against? No. Let us use this as long as we can, and if it's really gone, then we can buy the next best phone. And here I've also included Father Stan Swami, and I had spoken with Kristen and she said, it's a great idea. So for those of you who don't know, Father Stan Swami is a Jesuit, 83 years old. And he has been for the last 50 years working with the indigenous people and with what we call the Adivasis back home. And he has been working in education, but more recently in what he has realized is, or what rather some business people realize is there's a lot of good minerals and oil under the land where the Adivasis live in central India. And so they were trying to take the land, and the laws in India are very good. So Father Stan used those laws to say, no, if you want to remove the native people from here, you have to pay them compensation, etc. And a lot of these indigenous people were put in jail, and he fought for them. So what do? They decide to arrest him on a false charge, and he has been in prison now. On the 25th will be 200 days. 83 years old man, Parkinson's and all sorts. And he's there along with 15 other people who were fighting for justice, fighting for the poor. So his 84th birthday is coming on the 26th of April, and 25th is the 200 years. So as part of the thing of action, in the last slide, I'm going to speak a little more about what you could do to create some sort of awareness about Father Stan and this Jesuit for 50 years, and to try and get him released at least on bail. Okay. So now we come to how do we bring about. Okay, now this is the next part. Nick, any feedback, anything here?
No, those are good. And the one thing that I was thinking about when you were saying that is, I'm sure most people in this presentation are already doing quite a bit to be more sustainable in their lives. But I also am pretty confident that most people, including myself in this presentation, have things that we can improve on in terms of sustainability. And I'd like to put out a challenge to everyone here to pick the area in your life that that you're not doing your best in terms of sustainability, and I'd challenge you to face that head on, because like Father Roy has talked about, that resistance and that difficulty when you are trying to make that change is actually positive for your body and for your mind, and will lead to positive change. So I will demonstrate and say that one thing that I know I need to get better at is eating less meat. And so I'm going to challenge myself to eat no meat during the week. And that'll be a tough move for me, since my entire life I've not done that. But hopefully everyone else can take that challenge and do something that's out of your comfort zone, and find that by pushing yourself, you actually grow. But I think, Father, you're going to now lead us with some steps that will help people take that challenge.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for making a public commitment. Oh my God. I will have to also, I have been vegetarian for a considerable amount of time, but as you know, in the Midwest, it's pretty difficult, but I shall try. So how do we bring about behavior change? Okay, let me start by telling you that willpower is necessary as an initial investment, and willpower helps us. But we cannot sustain long-term change just on the basis of willpower, because after some time, willpower tends to plateau out. And so willpower is needed initially, and neuroscience tells us the same thing. I'm not going to go into the whole neuroscience of will, but it is needed. But remember, we cannot sustain ourselves. So therefore, it is important to already during that time when we have our willpower, to let these changes sink into our bodies, into our brains. So then after that, we don't need willpower, to turn off a light, or to use less water, or to keep the temperature low or high. Now, actual practical steps of behavior change. Okay, so I've already spoken about willpower. Now, step one. First, repeatedly place the thought in your mind. So what is the behavior change? Now, you might have an array of things on your platter of what you want to change. But again, from neuroscience tells us you need to choose one or two things to work, say, in the next 2 months. I'm not going to do everything, because if I try everything, that is a sure recipe for failure. Take 2 things in your life that you want to work on in the next 2 months, okay? And place that thought in your mind before going to bed. And when you get up in the morning, keep placing that thought. This is the behavior I want. This, and look at it right in what is the change that you want to bring about. Okay, St. Ignatius has said this to us long time back. Before you sleep at night, what is the grace that I seek? As soon as you get up in the morning, what is the grace that I'm seeking from God? Okay, so keep placing the change that you want to bring about in your mind throughout the day, and it will slowly work. Then, as I said, mind map your vision. There'll be lots of things that you have, but you need to focus, you need to zoom in, and for this, discernment needs to take place. So the discernment does not mean that which is the best thing or the most needed change that I have to do. When I'm speaking of discernment, I'm talking about using your heart. So maybe the thing that you want to change is not the most important, but at least you feel you have the energy to go in that direction. You feel, yes, I think I can do that. Okay, so move in that direction of, I'm going to take this for 2 months. Yes, the other things will come, and there's a time and a place for that. Be positive rather than negative. Okay, so no impossible, no, it's difficult, I can't do that. It's possible, it's doable, okay? So stay positive, make a game out of it. Make a game with your family, your kids. Hey, let's see, whoever remembers to put off all the lights when they leave a room, okay? And reward behavior. If your kid, okay, does put off the light, if your kid does, separate trash, etc., encourage that behavior. Be positive. And of course, we need reminders. So write it down on paper, on Post-it, on your cell phone screen, on flashcards, that behavior that you've chosen to change in the next few months. And then talk about it, okay? I mentioned it, Nick has mentioned it, Kristen has mentioned it. It's not easy. We are talking about maybe changes that have been part of our lives. But talk about not just telling someone, but personal sharing. Okay, and when we talk about the challenges, somehow, we get support, and that gives us energy to, to take it forward. And again, talking about what you are going to do is exactly what Nick had done. And don't worry, I did not prompt him. We did not discuss what he said. But when you say out loud, okay, I'm going to make sure that in my house that the AC is always at 76 and 77. okay, then you're making a public commitment. So talk about it, share it, and then this will help you. So these are some of the steps that are needed in order to bring about change. Of course, it's always good, if you do believe in a higher power, to ask for the graces and help to take you through these difficult steps. So these steps will help you to come to bring. I'd like to end with this little song, a composition of mine. And so it is titled The Challenge, but I think it fits into all that we are trying to do. We are trying to connect the environmental damage, climate change, but we are also connected to the indigenous people who have been deprived of their land, the beautiful declaration that Kristen read at the beginning, and it's not only in America, it's all over the world, okay, whether it's in Australia or India or the US, okay, and how, a lot of these people, you see broken bodies, lives destroyed, but unbroken in spirit. Somehow they come across as being so happy in spite of all. Humanity gone, justice crushed, the poor bear the brunt of it all. Lord, our earth longs for healing. Lord, the world needs your love to face the challenge, disturb the rich and comfort all the poor. The rich is a category in the Bible who says, I don't need anyone. I'm self-sustaining. And as you know, that's the biggest mistake in creating this climate change, because I have the money, I can have 2, 3, 4 houses, 4 cars, and I don't need anyone else. The second verse, liberation, we all need to be free. We need to be free from our baggages of the past, freedom from the enslavement to our gadgets, enslavement to our customs and traditions, and freedom from, but freedom for. Why? Not just to put ourselves in difficulties, but freedom to build about this new earth, this beautiful earth where we are together one people and we bring about change, not just for ourselves, but for our future generations. Lord, our earth longs for healing. Lord, the world needs your love. Face the challenge, disturb the rich, comfort all the poor. This is not a question of making sacrifices, actually. For the people who are at the bottom of the ladder, for them, it's, hey, this is justice issue. It's not that I'm sacrificing because I like the temperature a little cooler or a little warmer, okay? And they don't want our burnt offerings. They don't want our gifts, okay? But what we are called to is repentant hearts, contrite souls. We are sorry for what has been. And now let's walk hand in hand together, a spirit that is free. I'm going to play the song, and this will be our meditation song, and then I'll end with a few action things that we can do. For those of you who are interested in some of the things I've been saying and you'd like to go deeper, please feel free to go to YouTube, just put Roy Pereira SJ, and there are many of my neuroscience talks there and many of my my gifts of piano and music and singing, etc. I do have a lot of fun also, besides, of course, the serious business of neuroscience and climate change. Just give me a thumbs up here.
Broken bodies, lives destroyed, but unbroken in spirit, humanity gone, justice crushed, the poor bear the brunt of it all. Lord, our earth longs for healing, Lord, the world needs your love to face the challenge, disturb the rich and comfort all the poor.
That is Father Stan there on the extreme right.
Broken bodies, lives destroyed, but unbroken in spirit, humanity gone, justice crushed, the poor bear the brunt of it all. Lord, our earth longs for healing, Lord, the world needs your love to face the challenge, disturb the liberation. The world needs it. We all need to be freed. Freedom from enslavement. Freedom for the kingdom of God.
Lord, our earth longs for healing. Lord, the world needs your love to face the challenge, disturb the rich, and comfort all the poor.
I want justice, not sacrifice, not burnt offerings, nor gifts, repentant hearts, contrite souls, a spirit that is free.
Lord, our earth longs for healing. Lord, the world needs your love to face the challenge, disturb the rich, and comfort all the poor.
Lord, our earth longs for healing. Lord, the world needs your love to face the challenge, disturb the rich, and comfort all the poor. To face the challenge, disturb the rich, and comfort all the poor.
Okay, and this for your action. So on, as I said, 25th is his 200th day in prison, 26th his birthday. Visit Digital Jesuits either on Facebook or on Instagram, on Twitter. And what is planned is a Twitter storm, a Facebook storm on Monday. So whoever of you are on Twitter and Facebook, if you can just go to Digital, they are going to release a lot of images. So you can pick some of them, what you like, and every 2 hours, different images are going to be sent, and retweet them, share it on Facebook. Okay, this is one way. Another way, in case you want to write to the embassies about Father Stan's release, okay, or in your own newspapers, make noise about this Jesuit from India who's 84 years old. Even what we are saying is, at least let him come out on bail. You have a case, we are not talking about the case, but you cannot be putting into prison an 84-year-old man. So whatever you think, I'm sure you'll come out with ideas for this digital, for this Twitter storm. Thank you to Kristen, tUrn, to Santa Clara, to Nick, Vice Provost Reni Padilla, and Creighton University. Over to you guys. Thank you. So I think what I'd like to probably leave you all with is, I've been talking about how the body thrives when it has forced to go out of its comfort zone. And there's this nice little story told about a couple of goldfish in a tank. And, they got their food at the right time. Everything was climate controlled. They were very happy. And so soon they became bloated, and then they were not moving. And so the owner was like, this is not what I want my goldfish to be moving around. So then he put a small little shark into the goldfish tank. And of course, then the goldfish had to make sure that they were not caught by the shark, and they started moving around again and all that. So this is just the thing of our human bodies, okay? It's only when we are forced to get out of our comfort zone, and we can do that every day by doing small little things that take us out of our comfort zone, and it is good for the body, it is good for the brain, it's good for our spirits, and doing that is also good for society and for the environment. And may all the efforts of each of you, I'm not saying get sharks in your life, but, all difficulties take us on to a better planet. But thank you for this opportunity. Kristen, thank you, Nick. Thank you, Krista and Common Home Project.
Oh, thank you so much. Everybody, this has just been fantastic. Thank you to all the guests from Creighton, all the students and staff and faculty, and from Santa Clara and from everywhere else. For being here. It's so nice to share our audiences and collaborate in this way. So thank you, Nick, for being the connector for all of us here that met to do this talk. And Father Pereira and I met many years ago. So this is a lovely, happy reunion for the two dancers on the call. And thank you for sharing your song and your music with us. That was just an absolute delight. And the imagery, the heart, the beautiful voice you have really help carry this forward, I think, and give us a lot of energy as we work through this.